Okay, so before we get started, I know this is not really an issue with anyone here, but I had a class earlier where the person's name wasn't who they were, so I kicked them out. So just make sure, and it was a student, this was had a different name, um, like not like a nickname. It was a completely different name. So if you have like a different name on your little Zoom account thing that I don't know is you, I won't let you in. Just so you know that. So yeah, I had to remove them from the waiting room. So just, I know this is not like an issue for anybody, but I'm just telling you because it's probably gonna happen for any other teachers. And not to say that anybody's doing that, but I just want to tell you because I thought it was amusing that I kicked somebody out for that. Okay. So, okay, that's done. Okay, so I hope everybody had a good weekend. What are we doing? My mind is so tired. My daughter got up at 2 o'clock in the morning and decided to walk around the house and was just being kind of creepy like that. She likes to try to scare us in the middle of the night. That's her thing now, is trying to scare us. She thinks it's hilarious, but I find it terrifying. So there's nothing more terrifying than a little toddler walking around your house in the dark and like giggling as she's walking around the house. Or doesn't respond to anything you tell her. Like I call for her name, she doesn't say anything. She's just silent. So that was it was a fun morning. It was a fun morning. I had a hard time falling back to sleep. So my mind is not running as best as it could today. But it's usually the case all the time. Okay, so today we had, okay, so I'm just gonna do some reminders here. So today we have a question due, right? Question due from the first two chapters. That's due by the end of today. I think it says the due date is Tuesday. Tuesday is the due date, it says Tuesday on the Google Classroom. Tuesday is the due date for you to respond to someone. I would still like to see you do those questions by the end of the day, Monday, and then respond to somebody by Tuesday. So you have a lot of options to respond to, okay? So make sure you get that done and get that question done about our book here, Rousseau Investigation. Get that done by tomorrow, okay? So there's that. Today, we read chapters 3 and 4. Tomorrow, we're going to read chapter 5. It's about 8 pages long, so it's a really short reading for tomorrow. And once we finish chapter 5, we'll be about halfway through the book already. Like I said, this is a pretty short book, and it moves somewhat quickly. Our narrator likes to talk. Our narrator likes to sort of ramble about things, but that should tell us a bit about him and his character. But just sort of reiterate what we talked about on, was it Friday? Did we have class Friday? Thursday? There we go, thank you. I see head shaking, no, yes, okay. So Thursday, that makes sense, because it's tomorrow. Man, I'm on it today. On Thursday, right, we talked about the first two chapters about our main character, Aaron, or Huron, right? And him telling his story about his brother, Musa, who was the murdered person in The Stranger. And we get his whole narrative about like his experience with Musa, how old he was when his brother died, and the responses that our narrator has to the stranger, that story, but his brother being basically erased, right? So chapters 3 and 4 get into something else. Does anybody want to point out or sort of note any primary themes or subjects that happen over the course of these two chapters, or what we really learn about our narrator and his family? Yeah, Mick.
His mom really takes the grieving process like to a whole new level, kind of. It's like very intense with her.
Yes. Things are very intense with the mother, right? She is going through a lot of grief, and it is basically, right, destroying his relationship with his mother. there's like this chapter is really, really about his poor relationship with his mother. And he seems to be kind of excited, or at least waiting for her to die. Because he tells our narrator, I'll invite you to the funeral. He says it twice. He ends a chapter, I believe chapter 3, with that line. I will, or is it chapter 4? Yes, chapter 4. With, no, he doesn't. Where is it? Where did it go? He doesn't end the chapter then. He doesn't end the chapter with it. He ends up a section in chapter 3. I'll take you with me to her funeral. Like, I got to bring guests to my mother's funeral. I'm looking forward to it. But, right, this relationship is very strained. And at one point, our narrator says, I think my mother just wanted me to be Musa and sort of saw me as him and doesn't want me to be my own person. But she dressed me in his clothes. She sort of ignored me all the time and didn't give me much attention. And when she did, she never thought of me as myself, but as my brother, right? But remember also too on Thursday, we talked about whether or not our narrator is totally reliable. If everything that our narrator gives us is factual, like this has actually happened, or it was all based in memory. A lot of it is based in memory, right? A lot of the things that he talks about are all his memories. And he acknowledges that many, 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 many times, right? He acknowledges that all these aspects are part of his memory. He says, this is on page 32, and this is important for us to understand him as a character, right? When he starts talking about this secret that him and his mother have. It's on page 30, bottom of page 32. I look at you and I wonder how trustworthy you are. Will you believe another version of the facts, a version previously unknown? I'm hesitating. I'm not sure. No, look, not now. We'll try another time, another day. Where to go when you're already dead? I think you want facts, not parentheses, right? So he's like, will you accept another aspect of facts? Or are you going to accept me, what I'm telling you, as the truth? Okay, so what's the difference between facts and truth? Why is that important for our narrator here? It's like another version of facts, but I'm also giving you truth. Like, what's the difference between the two? Is there a difference between facts and truth? No one wants to try. Yeah, Georgia.
I think that like there's prob there. Hmm. Okay, it's gonna be kind of weird, but like
Go ahead.
sometimes like facts like they can change based on new information. I
Okay.
feel like the truth will always be the truth.
Okay. So truth can't be changed. Is that what you're saying? But facts can change with new information?
Yeah, like based on new information received, like facts can change. Like people used to think that Earth was the center of the universe, and then that changed as more information was presented.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So you can get more information and change what is perceived to be a fact. Okay.
Dr. Durkin,
Yeah.
sorry, I had to be in my other class and I mixed them up.
Okay.
So I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
can
Go ahead.
Okay,
This
bye.
is being recorded so you can see it later, all right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to add to that? What Georgia just said? Or disagree with what Georgia said? That facts can change, but truth seems to be stable. Okay, so we want to go with that. I'm going to push against a little bit, right? Facts, also think of facts as something that you can verify, which goes with the idea that Georgia has. Like with new information, you can change how you verify it. But we have like historical facts. We know this person did this thing on this particular day. Or we know, because we have documentation, somebody signed this particular thing. That's a fact. That's not going to change. Largely, that's not going to change. Scientific fact might be a different thing. Science changes, evolves, but facts are always going to be the same. Mathematics, I think, like, unless like I'm not super well versed in mathematics, but I believe 2 plus 2 will always equal 4, right? It's never going to change. That's a fact. But truth, we're getting like philosophical territory. Like, what is truth? We're not going to get into that right now. But we all have personal experiences that we think to be true. Like, this happened to me. I know it happened to me because I remember it happened to me. Therefore, it's true. But somebody else might have the same, like, experience the same event at the same exact time, have a different perception of it, and have a different truth about that situation, right? Because our truth, whatever it may be, our personal experience, we think it to be true. If we thought everything we experience is not true, then we're like, well, everything's a lie. Nothing is real. What's the point of anything? But we have our narrator here saying, I have these new facts that may change the story that we already had, what we've heard for so long. We're going to give a new perception on that experience. So, like what Georgia said, this novel is like giving new facts to a narrative that happened before, but they're based on a person's subjective personal truth and experiences. So, what we're getting at is we have a narrator who thinks they're working in facts, but working in memory. And memory cannot be trusted. Memory is untrustworthy for the most part. Even though it makes us who we are, it's very untrustworthy. And our narrator acknowledges that a lot in the book, acknowledges that aspect a lot. Like, I don't remember much about this experience, or here's this person I do remember, here's what I do remember about them. But for the most part, our narrator is basing their narrative, their whole story, on memories and what they experienced as a kid. Because how old do we think our narrator is now? I've been trying to think about this. If he was 7 when this all happened, how old is he now? Yeah, Georgia.
Didn't you say like in the first chapter that he was like that this was taking place like 70 something years later?
I think, didn't you just say 60?
60 or 70 up there.
Yeah, 60 or 70, around that range. So The Stranger came out in 1942, right? So math, 2002, supposedly this would be 2002, 2012. So that'd make them, oh my, I can just add 60 to 7. 67, 77, that'd be a lot easier to do. It's like adding my years together. 67, 77 years old or so, right? He's around that. His mother's still alive. We know that, but she's not talking to him anymore. So he's getting up in age. He's getting up in age. But it's been 60 years remembering these things, remembering these experiences. And if you think you remember every tiny detail as a 7-year-old 60 years later, that probably will not be the case, even if it's as, sort of very, I don't know, it imprints on you very well. You might still be adding things to your memory that aren't there. So we also have, like I noted before, he talked about the secret that he and his mother have, that they buried something. And this is on page 32. And I'm trying to figure out what this secret is, right? Oh, he first mentions it on page 28. The traces of our secret, which was sealed one summer night, which caused me to make the definitive leap into manhood. Says, be patient, I'll tell you about it. And then on page 32, he says, one terrible night over on Haju, the moon obliged me to finish the job your hero began in the sun. What do you think he did? Yeah, Georgia.
Murder.
You think he murdered someone?
Yeah, just, I don't know, the wording of that kind of makes me think he killed someone. I don't know.
Okay, so right, they're talking about burying. It's this major secret between him and his mother. Something because we know what happened in The Stranger, what happens in the sunlight, right? At this moment when the sun overtakes Morceau and kills Musa, right? Murders him. So there's this suggestion that maybe he murdered somebody too, him and his mother, but we don't know what actually happened. We're still figuring that out as the reader. We also learn about a little bit more about about the person who he's talking to as well, right? We find out that the person he's talking to is French. Seems to be a French man, a young person, trying to find Musa's body. He's trying to find Musa's body apparently, because if I remember, I make sure I get it correctly here. He calls him like the detective, um, but he notes that you're trying to track was you're trying to find his body, and it's on page 46 because the person he's talking to, right, he says on page 46, it was you who came to me. I really wonder how you were able to track us down. You're here because you think, as I once thought, that you can find Musa or his body, identify the place where the murder was committed, and trumpet your discovery to the whole world. I understand you. You want to find a corpse, and I'm trying to get rid of one. And not just one, believe me. So again, that secret perhaps. So the person he's talking to found him somehow and seems to be trying to find Musa's body at the same time. So that's who our narrator is talking to, this detective of some sort, trying to find out where Musa was killed and where his body went to. We also remember our narrator keeps reminding us that they're in a bar, that they're drinking, that they seem to be drinking for hours and hours and hours every day. So that also gives us this sense of like, who is our narrator? Who is this man? What kind of life is he living? And is he trustworthy? And also, well, I think we didn't really talk about in the first two chapters, but it seems pretty evident. I'm sort of interested, what do you think about our narrator's relationship or view towards women? Does he have like a positive idea of women, or is it more on the negative side? How does he usually talk about women? Yeah, Mick.
Well, I mean, for the most part, when he talks about women, he's really talking about his mom. And
Yeah.
especially like right now, I don't think he has the most positive like viewpoint about his mom's feelings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
I think you're right about that. That like a lot of the times when you think about women, he's thinking about his mother. If I were into Freud, I'd be having a field day with this book, but I don't really care about Freud. So, but there is like this connection. He seems to be viewing women, especially at the beginning of the novel, as he doesn't trust them. He doesn't trust women. He seems to view women in a very negative way. He also acknowledges that he never had a sister. This is sort of like complicating the stranger's narrative about the reason why Musa was murdered, because the whole sister his sister has been sort of harmed in some way. But he's like, I never had a sister, and the women I do know were kind of like nobody really cared about them. Didn't want to be in serious relationships, things of that nature. But also, our narrator says that people constantly asked him as he grew up, "Why didn't you get married?" Our narrator's never been married, and he gets hounded about this by others. So he seems to have a very sort of standoffish relationship with women, and that is influenced, we could argue, a lot by his mother and how his mother treated him. So these are the things that I noticed and I think are helpful for us to understand this narrative and understanding what this narrator is going through personally. And in terms of just this life that he's lived, he's been haunted by the past, can't seem to get beyond it, and but also is recognizes that sometimes he doesn't remember things very clearly, that he has these really negative relationships with others, especially his mother, which may then influence his memories, right? Sometimes when we have a negative relationship with someone, good memories they have with them in the past might not be as important as all the negative stuff, or negative things can alter those previous memories. But our narrator seems to sort of go back and forth, like his mother took care of him, but didn't seem to love him as much as his brother. And he keeps going back and forth. And he's like, finally, like, oh, well, I'm excited for her to die. He doesn't really say I'm excited, but she's still alive. She doesn't talk to me anymore, but I'll invite you to her funeral. So, any other points or ideas that stuck out to you in these first two or these chapters 3 and 4? Okay, we'll leave it at that. So, so for tomorrow, we're going to read chapter 5. All right, we're going to read chapter 5. It's a short chapter. I will scan it in just a few minutes, put it up in the Google Classroom, okay? But make sure, if you haven't done so yet, to answer the question on the Google Classroom. I will put another one up tomorrow that'll be about chapters 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so I'll put another one up tomorrow that'll be due later in the week. That'll be about chapters 3, 4, and 5, all right? And we'll take some time tomorrow to look over any some of the answers that you wrote up for chapters 1 and 2. We'll use those to help us maybe guide us through the next chapter, chapter 5, okay? So make sure you answer that question if you haven't done so already. Make sure you respond to somebody else's response by tomorrow, end of the day tomorrow. And I'll put up chapter 5 for tomorrow's reading. Like I said, it's only about 7 to 8 pages long, so it'll be pretty quick to get through. Okay? Anybody have any questions? Okay, awesome. I will see you all tomorrow then. Bye, everybody.